Today I'm at C&H Precision in Richmond Hill, Georgia, talking to Buck Holly. What is this, you ask? Well, the largest flagpole in Georgia. Let me tell you, he pulls no punches when it comes to quality. Let's get to work. All right, this is the Standard Work Podcast. Today I'm with Buck Holly, C&H Precision, Richmond Hill, Georgia. Buck, thank you so much.
Good to meet you for a very first time.
Yes, absolutely. So let's get straight into it. C&H Precision. Tell us about C&H. How did it come about? What do you guys manufacture?
We started business in 2012. It was my partner then at the time. We both left government. He was active duty. I worked for the government as a contractor. And we both were tired of the grind. We both lived in the Beltway. And we said, let's move to Florida. He was a motor Harley rider, and he loved the thought of moving in Florida. My two older kids were there. And let's settle in Fort Myers area, and let's build a shop. And let's build precision rifles. I passionately shot precision rifles. He passionately manufactured M40 A1s, A3s, A5s for the Marine Corps sniper teams, and it was a match made in heaven. We start producing precision bolt-action rifles, and we did that for a couple years with a goal to be home, be present for our families, and we each said, if we can make $80,000, we can make this work. Well, we made great rifles, and we started to do good business, but I don't think in those first 2 years, neither one of us probably made more than $25,000 each. So an opportunity presented itself in the October of 2014. A good friend of mine called me who worked at a premier pistol manufacturer that everybody's heard of, Glock, and said, can you make this little widget? And I was like, what? I'm thinking to myself, what does this widget have to do with a pistol? This doesn't fit on any pistol that I know of, and what do you need it for? Actually, the very first one looks exactly like this. This is a 2X scale model of it, but this is what it looked like. And I couldn't figure out what he was, but he said, I need 25 of them, and I need them fast. Fast forward to January of that year at SHOT Show, and Glock released the MOS, Modular Optical System. And this was the plate that fit in the slot of, this is a Glock representative. This is what they released in SHOT Show of 2015. Had this cutout, you put this plate on it, and then you put a Trijicon RMR on there. And I was like, who would ever buy that? But if Glock is doing it, maybe I shouldn't just make 25, let's make 50. And I sold them on eBay, because I knew that these were going to be a thing, and it probably took me 6 months to sell 25 of them. When we ran out, then we made 50. And then when we ran out, we made 100. And we're probably selling 2, 3, 4 a month, 2, 3, 4 a week, until we had a dust up with my partner. He didn't like manufacturing this. He just wanted to make rifles. And at that time, I bought him out, and we focused on building rifles and building plates. 2017, an opportunity presented itself. My wife is from Georgia, wanted to relocate to Georgia. Our youngest daughter was about to start school. The schools up here were better. The weather up here is slightly better. So we decided to make the move, and that's the only reason, just because she wanted to live in Georgia. So I ended up in Richmond Hill, and we continued to make rifles and plates for another year or two. And I got to the point where I had to make a decision. I had to pivot. Do we really focus on making these, or do we really focus on making precision bolt-action rifles? And I think I made the right choice. I called my biggest competitor in the rifle business and said, George at GA Precision, I'm going to send you all of my current customers and all my future customers. Just take really good care of them. It's not going to cost you anything. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm still making these little parts, but it's taken off. And here we are, fast forward to today in 2025, and I don't know what the latest exact numbers, but we make more than 6,000 of this, but an upgraded version. We make more than 6,000 of these a week.
Wow. What was the trigger, do you think, no pun intended, but why did Glock start doing that with a pistol?
I believe for two reasons. Optics on pistols were starting to become slightly more popular in competitive shooting. You can go back, so this has been a thing for almost 15 years. You can go back 20 years, and there were guys that were making rudimentary mounts for 20 or 1911s and other go-fast guns that So it was starting to be popular, but I'd be willing to bet, and I can't confirm this, I'd be willing to bet that this probably came out of some 3 or 4 lettered agency who had a desire for a very specific reason, and then more and more people caught on, and then they said, now you go back to that year, the year that they came out with them, and somebody can correct me, but I'm pretty close, that year they made 1.7 million pistols at Glock, and only 100,000 of them were MOS. In 2021, 10%, they were up to about 2 million pistols, 10%, so 200,000 pistols were MOS. And as of this year, I believe the number is at about 70% of pistols made by Glock are optics ready. And then the other 30% is what we call our milling department, so that you can take your slide. If you have one that's not optics ready, you can send it to us and we'll cut it for about 150 bucks.
Wow. And so you said this is kind of first gen right here. So what were the iterations, or what was your thought process, or what were the changes that you made to the plate?
So this is version 1. And what you'll notice about this, and when we take, so this is a representative of a Holosun 507C. So you'll notice that this is the exact same width as the slide. It has the cocking serrations machined into it, so it looks like it's supposed to be. But when you put this on, now you have this big ugly gap in front of the optic, okay? And it's butted up against the back. But what this, not only is this gap ugly, what it also does is it allows the optic to move ever so slightly forward and ever so slightly rearward, and that can cause alignment issues, point of impact issues, and it can also lead to shear forces being applied to the screws that go through the optic into the plate. Now, the other negative of, so then that was version 1. Version 2, because we were making these for RMRs, and an RMR, now this is just a 2X model of a Holosun, but an RMR has a battery that's on the bottom. And the battery, which is a coin cell, it's a 2032, is actually wider than the slide. So you'll see it protrude from the side. Well, what happens then is then you have to use a cover plate. So you put the battery in, you put this really thin piece of sheet metal on there, and then you put it on here, and now your battery compartment's sealed. Well, do you want to have to buy yet another piece of hardware to do this? So why don't we just make the plate wider to match the footprint of the optic, and now you don't need a sealing plate?
Sure.
Then consumers were pissed. They're like, oh my God, the plate sticks out wider than the slide. I'm like, yeah, so does the optic. So we made it, we configured it so it's the same size as the optic. They both stick off, no big deal. And now you don't need a sealing plate. They quickly got over that. Well, then that's when the real problem came in. So if you are or are not a student of mechanical engineering, and if you happen to take a course in fasteners and joints, okay, very interesting course. And I'll be as brief as possible, but if you are threading 2 surfaces together, you're creating a joint, and you're using threaded devices to connect these things together, the diameter of the screw, the nominal diameter of the screw, should be, so let's just say that is 138 thousandths in diameter. The rule of thumb is when you thread down into a mating surface, you should have 138, a minimum of 138, ideally 1.2. So you should probably have about 180 thousandths of thread engagement into this surface. Well, quick check, Trijicon, RMRs, and Holosuns come with 632 screws, which have a nominal diameter of 138 thousandths. So how thick should this plate be? 138 thousandths at least. It should probably be 200 thousandths thick just to be safe. But every manufacturer, because Glock started it, these plates are 100 thousandths thick. Now, if you also study screws and fasteners, if a screw or a fastener is threading into something, we're going to say this is the threaded part of a screw. screws are always chamfered on the bottom so that you can get at least the pointy part stick so that you can start threading it into a hole. This is amazing. If you ever stick a screw through a hole and you grind it flat on the bottom side of the surface and then pull it out, it is impossible to get it started back in the same hole because there's no chamfer and you got to get it perfect.
Right.
So screw designers, and we design screws, we make 8 million screws a year for other companies. So they put a little chamfer on here. Now what does that do? Let's say you're threading through a material and that pointy tip hits a flat surface and you've got a 100,000th thick plate. You thread down through it and the tip of the screw hits this surface. You don't even get 100 thousandths of thread engagement. You might get 90 thousandths of thread engagement. So you're supposed to have 138 thousandths. You only get 90. What do you think is going to happen to the screw?
It's going to get stripped out, or
it's going to get stripped out. It's going to break. It's going to loosen. So all of that to get to where we are with this. So version 3 was wide enough to cover the battery compartment on the optic, and then we machined in these posts that came off of the plate. So now we made the plate and thread engagement 200 thousandths. The plate's 100 thousandths thick, so we didn't want to increase the thickness of the plate because we want to mount it as low as possible. But we machined in a post that stuck off, and I thought, I just solved the world's problems. Well, turns out I didn't, because customers, being customers, typically men, typically gun guys, and if you tell them 15 inch-pounds,
I can imagine.
15 inch-pounds is with a torque wrench. Now, how many of you guys out there have a calibrated torque wrench? Not one of the yellow Wheeler ones that when you get to 20, it could be 15 or 25.
I have one, but it's foot-pounds.
Yeah, so foot-pounds, yes. Mistakes are made all the time. You say 15 inch-pounds, they go to 15 foot-pounds, and they break. And then they call and they're mad at me because they broke. Your screws are defective.
Right.
Well, combine all those issues, and you got a post that's integrated into the plate. If you accidentally strip it, if you accidentally break it off, now this whole $70 part is junk. So I got tired of replacing junk parts, whether we made a mistake or the customer made a mistake. It doesn't matter whose mistake it is. I want people to have the best parts. So I was hunting, and I was hunting with an AR-15 and some really good friends of mine that started and run a company that everybody else will know called Magpul. So on their rails, they have these attachments. It's called M-lock, so it's a slot. You put a little T-nut on the back. You put your attachment on the outside. You put a screw into it. It sucks the T-nut into the slot, and now it's attached. And I was like, that is genius. How about we integrate that into the bottom of our plate? So this is what version 3 looked like, except these were black and they were part of the plate. I said, what if I can make that threaded post, but make it out of stainless steel so it's harder to break and snap? The plate can still be made out of aluminum. These are removable, so if you ever strip one or break one or lose one, you can replace it for $1 or $2. And you never really have to replace your plate. So that is how we have gotten to version 4. It is patented. It's got 2 patents actually, and that patent's good for another 13 or 14 years. And so this is what firmly plants us. There are some competitors now that make plates, and their only option is to make something very similar to our version 3, a plate with posts on it, or they make a plate like our version 2, which you thread down into the plate, and I just saw one 2 days ago. One of our competitors is making one, but their plate is 200 thousandths thick, which is what it should be, but that raises your optic, and therefore, it's a good solution. It's just not the best. This is by far the best mounting solution in the industry.
So those pieces, this right here, these threaded pieces then are a couple bucks versus replacing that whole plate.
Yes, so that was, I made it modular, and as you see, we call it a T-nut because it's purposely shaped as a T on the back so that you can machine a slot, you can put it in there, and that prevents it from turning when you're tightening it. It's replaceable. We make them out of 416 stainless. We'll show you in the shop here in a little bit. We make the plates out of 6061 aluminum here in the shop. It's actually structurally better for a pistol because the pistol slides moving at about 9 Gs going back and forth. And we've proven that steel is not the best because steel is less forgiving and it has a tendency to start to weaken and start to bend, and when it bends, it wants to stay where it bent to.
Right.
Aluminum is really good where it'll flex and it'll go back to where, you know, the molecular structure of it aligns better. So if it does bend a little bit from G-forces, it goes back to where it originally was machined and what its original shape was. And it's lighter. So this is, and they're faster to make. We can make 4 or 5 aluminum parts in the same time that we can make one steel one.
Wow, and are you using like a CNC machine to produce those parts?
We have, so we started with Haas machines. I still love Haas, and I'd love to meet Gene Haas one day. I think I think he could be a great mentor of mine. But his machines for what we do, what we used to do, and at the rates that we used to run were fantastic. When you get to be a serious optimization wizard like we are now, Haas is not the best machine for what we do because every Haas machine, VF2, VF4, VF7, VF12, we've had them all, every machine that was made after 2020, right about COVID, they have a tendency to have spindle motor issues. Not when you run them 4 or 5 or 6 hours a day. When you run them like we try and keep them running 24 hours a day. And what we noticed was a Cat 40 spindle does not hold the tolerances that we need. Again, not anything against Haas, but when you're running machines at max RPM, because we're running aluminum, we're running them at max RPM, 15,000 RPMs all the time. We try and keep them on 24 hours a day. What happened, and we used to be in a shop that was not air conditioned. The machine heats up, you get thermal coupling from the machine into the spindle motor. The coolant heats up, the atmosphere heats up, you start to have deviations in tolerance stacking then. And then what we really noticed, and we could never figure out, is we'd put 7 sticks of material in a machine, and the first 2 or 3 rows would be perfect, and then suddenly row 5, 6, and 7, they'd start to get a little thicker or a little thinner, which one? And what we found was a Cat 40 tapered spindle, if you run the spindle at max RPMs 24 hours a day or as often as you can, because it heats up and it's cone shaped, it's tapered, if the spindle heats up, what do metals do when they heat up? They expand.
They expand, right.
Now, if the conical hole gets a half a thou bigger, the spindle can seat a thousandths deeper. So that is why we've had problems with those machines. And then we started losing spindles when the sales rep told us we could run them at max RPM 24 hours a day. And then we started burning up spindles. And when we went through spindle number 6 at $25,000 or $30,000 a piece, and they stopped warranting them, and then we started to pay them, I then told the sales rep, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to find another option. Now, we still have 6 or 7 Haas machines out there that we do. We just don't run the death out of them like we do
Okay, so you found that kind of perfect
We did.
rate at which you can build for manufacture?
We do those for our limited run parts now. So most all of our parts, we make them in batches of 88 parts per tombstone on our new Akumas. And when we'll load that thing up, the whole pallet pool will be 6 tombstones of one part. So we like to make them in batches of, we forecast how many we need for 2 or 3 months. We'll make a batch. So that might be 2,000, might be 10,000. Well, you might be a small gun parts manufacturer and you need 50 a month for 6 months.
Right.
So you need 300 parts. Well, we can afford to run a VF2 or a VF4 running 50 parts per batch. And they'll run for 2 or 3 hours. The machine stops down, go open up the doors, flip them over, close the doors, hit go in 2 or 3 or 4 hours. Or tomorrow we'll flip them again. So those are jobs that are not in a hurry. We're running them at full speed. but for short stints of time.
Right.
We did a study, and we were trying to calculate what our spindle on time was. And as a machine shop owner, I'm like, we ran our hosses all the time. It must be 70, 80, 90%. When we really got down in the weeds, we never once had a machine that would stay on more than 30% of the time when you actually accounted for the numbers. They're always kind of sitting there idle because it runs for 2 hours, 3 hours. By the time somebody knows, or even if you get a text message, it's an hour before you get out there, get the doors open, get it flipped over, get it back in work. Now it's 2 hours later. You just lost 2 hours, but you think that it's running because you're standing in front of it. Well, what happens when it shuts down at 7 p.m.? There's nobody here.
Nobody's here, right.
So now you're going to lose 12 hours. So if you lose 12 hours and then you lose 2 or 3 hours during the middle of the day, suddenly it might have run for 8 total hours today. But where's the other 16 hours?
Right.
They're gone.
Do you have like a dashboard or anything that's monitoring the machines for uptime or anything like that? Or is it periodic monitor of the machine?
We don't. We probably should. If we wanted to afford that computer nerdy dude, we could probably hire him if that number really made sense to me.
Right.
But there's never a time when I walk in the shop at that the big machines are not running. They are always running because we bought Akumas, we bought a pallet pool, and the great thing about a pallet pool and an Akuma is they have a special tapered, collared spindle, so no matter how hot the spindle gets, the tool holder can only go in so far. It's got a mechanical stop.
Yep.
They run for 88 parts, and then it takes a break for 2 or 3 minutes while it's changing tools and changing pallets, so it gets to cool down a little bit. And it's got 6 additional pallets in the pallet pool, which if you ran all those without touching anything, it'd basically run for 24 hours. But now you got a lot of work to do at the end of the 24 hours.
Right.
So we got guys that come check them every 2 or 3 or 4 hours. It's running while you open up one door. You know, a Haas machine will stop running if you open the doors. Our Akumas, it runs over there on one side. You can open this door and flip parts, measure parts, QA them, flip them over, put no material, close it, push that pallet in, go there, pull out another one. They are so wildly efficient.
So you're setting up while it's still working, and then it's pulling that new work.
You're setting up as many as 5 or 6 pallets.
Wow.
That you get them set up, and then the machine grabs them. It knows what number pallet is. It knows what material's in there, and it's programmed to run a certain program. So we can forecast weeks in advance what material we're going to run, what parts are going to come out. And we've got 2 of these monsters. They're the most amazing machine. We also have a Swiss machine that I think is more amazing. But the Akumas are my babies, and everybody needs one. Until you figure out that in order for it to run properly, you need somewhere between 18 and 36 inches of triple reinforced concrete. And then when you buy the machine, you're accustomed to buying tool holders for your Haas that cost $150 to $250, and a tool is $100. Well, tool holder, these HKS or HSK tool holders that we use in the Kuma, last time I checked, I think they're $800 a piece, and then you put a tool in them. And it holds 181 tool holders. So by the time you're all done with this, in fact, the first Akuma that we bought and we put in an old warehouse that had 8-inch thick floors, when we turned that joker on for the first time, I am not shitting you, I was up in my office and I thought we were having an earthquake in coastal Georgia.
Really?
The whole building my water's shaking, I'm shaking, I'm like, oh my God, I better get under a desk. And then it shuts off, and I'm like, I wonder what that was. A couple minutes later, it starts shaking again. I'm like, aftershock. Then I go downstairs, I'm looking around, and here comes Jeremy in from the lab, and he goes, we got to figure something out with this machine because it shakes the whole building. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Well, so we identified that this new machine moves so rapidly, it's so big and it's so heavy, and it moves so fast, the spindles up and down and left and right and back and forth, that I was like, wow, we're going to have to anchor it down to the floor. He says, it is anchored to the floor. The whole floor, a 100 by 50 building, the entire building was shaking. So when we built this building, we went back to the manufacturer and said, what's the minimum depth of the floors, and what's the recommended, and what's the max? So our machine shop floors in the back of the shop are All that machine shop back there is about 36 inches of pure, 3 layers of rebar and 3 feet of concrete. So at any place, we can move any machine anywhere. We can bolt them to the floor and let them eat, and they just purr like a cat.
Yeah, because my thought is, if you have a machine doing that and vibrating that much, how would that affect another machine that's trying to manufacture a precision part?
It's a cascading effect.
Exactly.
And our old shop also was about 25 yards from the railroad tracks. And we honestly could not figure out why, out of a batch of 100 parts, 2 or 3 of them had a really bad surface finish. Everyone else was like, what happened there? And then we had a Haas rep come in, and he couldn't figure it out. And there is a setting on your Haas machine that's like a vibration alert. And I think it was programmed basically for earthquakes. So he put this thing on, and he was just watching it, nothing's happened. And then you hear, ooh, ooh, here comes a train. And that meter went crazy. And he goes, I figured it out. He said, I figured it out.
Yeah.
A little bit of movement over there is from the train. The vibration comes to the ground. It shakes the machine just enough to give you just a slight surface finish or deviation. And, well, there was nothing we could do. I mean, it didn't cause major problems, but then we knew. And then we decided we'd move 2 miles away from the railroad tracks and build a floor that would sustain an earthquake.
What do you think the importance of customer when it comes to creating a product? I know you mentioned the customer a couple times.
Customer, well, I'll tell you what the 2 most important things in my life are. And I'll hearken this back to another business. Do you like Chick-fil-A?
Pretty good.
Okay, good. Yeah. Why do you go to Chick-fil-A?
Because it's right every time I go, and it's fast.
Yep. Okay. What you didn't say and what nobody should say is that the food's amazing. The food is I'm sorry, Kathy family. The food is mediocre at best. It's not good for you. It's fried food. It's fried fries. It's Coke. It's Diet Coke. Nothing there is good for you. But you've never walked into a Chick-fil-A and not been greeted with a smile. You've never walked into a Chick-fil-A that was dirty. You've never walked into a Chick-fil-A and got fast service, fast food, so they've got that recipe down. Why? They're customer facing, they're customer focused. They deliver a mediocre product that does what it should. Their service is amazing. And the other part of that is customers and customer service are number one, tied with urgency. Everything they do at Chick-fil-A is with urgency. They are quick to give you your meal. They're quick to take your order. They're quick to get you to move your car up to the next one. Come on. Let's go. So we practice that here. It's not a Chick-fil-A lesson. It's a my lesson. Chick-fil-A stole it from me. But we do everything customer service focused. Whether they screw something up or whether we screw something up, we agree that there's an issue. We don't blame anybody. We're quick to take the blame if it's us. We help the customer fix their problem. And we do everything with urgency. When we design a new product, we don't tell you about it now. There are other optic companies in the world. They'll show you something at SHOT Show, and they'll say, it'll be out in 4th quarter. Now it's a running joke after 5 years of being bitten by that company, like 4th quarter of what year? This year or next year or the following year?
Yeah.
So we have a fantastic customer service department. I do not have, and you got to hire the right people. I am not the right person to put in customer service because I am too quick, Johnny on the trigger, to tell somebody to kick rocks.
Right.
Like, yes, you screwed up your plate. You should take responsibility, and you should pay for the return. Well, I've learned in that one customer that even though it's his fault, don't be too quick to put the blame on him. It might cost you, if he ruins this plate and it's obvious that he did it, and he's a bit of a prick, he's probably having a bad day. Now, if a guy ruins a plate himself and he calls and talks to one of our guys and says, I am such an idiot, I did this, our people are going to help him, no questions asked, probably no charge. If he's a little bit of a prick, we're gonna give him a pass because he's probably having a bad day. He's frustrated that he screwed something up.
Right.
And we help him. Now here's what business owners need. I am not conceding to that guy. I'm not rolling over for that guy. But if you get bad customer service or don't get fixed in your eyes what you should have been or fairly, the calculation that I've always done on that customer leaving us with a bad taste in their mouth, even if it is their fault, that guy is going to tell 10 people.
Yes.
And the 10 people that he tells will never do business with us because Johnny had a bad experience with him. And Johnny's a bit of a wild card. And we don't always believe what Johnny says. He's a little hot-headed, but just to be safe, we're not going to do business with him. So we always try to mitigate issues and help a customer out, even if it's their fault, because I want him to say, man, I really screwed up and I really kind of pulled one over on him, but I'd go back and do business with him again, even though I screwed it up. And that takes a very special personality of a person to deal with that person. And we've got great customer service. I'm just going to tell you, not everybody can do it.
Right.
I can't do it because I enjoy telling people to kick rocks. So don't put me in customer service. Put me in business development or engineering where we can solve people's problems and we can be the hero, and we don't get the opportunity to tell people to kick rocks.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to close it up. The moment I walked into the coffee shop, just the quality, just the setup, I loved it. The smell, just everything. This top, I love it. Just that right there, when they handed it to me, I was like, what is that? You know, some people might say that you've left no cost, you know, the cost didn't matter, but it was the quality of that. That impressed me. You got a gun range, you have a pro shop, you have a coffee shop, you manufacture the parts. To me, I see the quality like in everything that you do, and that's paramount.
So this is a study on customer service. I did not want a cup that you have to put a sleeve over. So there's 2 pieces, and then there's 3 pieces with the lid. And I searched and searched. I travel quite a bit, and I saw these lids on a travel trip in a foreign country, and I was like, I've got to have those. Because when people saw, like, people are more impressed with the coffee lid than they are the coffee. It's crazy.
Yes.
So, and I will tell you that we went so far as, you know, how dedicated am I to the customer? We didn't hire just a chef to run our kitchen. We hired an executive chef. So our little coffee shop makes like $1,000 a day. Nothing. They're really here to serve our community and our employees. I don't want our employees to have to go out in town and spend $20 to $25 on breakfast or lunch when they should be able to come here. I have an edict that an employee that works here should be able to walk down the hall and get coffee and a breakfast sandwich for $10. They should walk down the hall and get a Coke and a lunch sandwich for $10 to $12. Now I'm improving his quality of life because if he got Uber Eats or Dash, it's $18 to $22.
Right.
And then we open it up to everybody in the community. But when I don't want to eat junior varsity food. So this little shop that does $1,000 or $1,500 a day, we hired the executive chef from Palmetto Bluff, which is a haven. I don't know how many golf courses they've gotten, how many multimillionaires or billionaires. We took their chef and paid them a lot of money to come here and work and create a menu that has the best food in Richmond Hill. I live at Ford. It's a premier golf course community right in this town. I'll tell anybody, even fellow members, my food is better than yours.
Buck, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.